Hi guys, this is Sarita DSD and I'm speaking to you tonight about my new book, The Cosmic Shekinah, which I co-authored with David Rankin. It's just been published on Avalonian and you can find out more about it at the website, thecosmicshekinah.co.uk or at avaloniabooks.co.uk. The book is also available from Amazon and all the usual suspects. Now, in this book, David and I kind of explores the different manifestations of feminine wisdom within the ancient myths and cultures and religious traditions, as well as more specifically as it develops and the different kind of figures of the feminine divine as wisdom through the development of different goddesses, etc., and as it manifests then especially as the Shekinah within Jewish mystical literature. We also look at parallel manifestations of wisdom goddesses, as well as developments from the Shekinah into more modern texts. Now, one of the questions that came up when I did my live Ustream session on the 20th of May was about the connection between Lilith and the Shekinah. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Lilith, she's probably the most challenging and kind of misunderstood figures of the feminine divine in history. Lilith first is mentioned in the myth of the Halupa tree in Sumerian myth from about 3000 BCE. So that's about 5,000 years old, making her pretty ancient as far as the feminine divine is concerned. Now, there's all kinds of kind of different theories about her origins and different myths associated with her, which we all cover in the book within the context of the other material and in a section of the book which is specifically dedicated to Lilith. There's only one biblical reference to Lilith, which is found in Isaiah 34:14, in which Lilith is basically described as being a very demonic entity who would lay waste to the world on the day of reckoning. Now, that particular verse I shall read to you, just for those of you that are unfamiliar with it. It reads, I quote, "Wild cats shall meet with hyenas, goat demons shall call to each other, there too Lilith shall repose and find a place to rest." Now, there's all kinds of myths and stories about Lilith. One of the most popular and probably most often repeated that I've heard, especially within the modern goddess movement, is this story that Lilith is the first woman before Eve in the Garden of Eden, and that essentially she was Adam's first wife. And that in an incident where she refused to be submissive and lie underneath Adam during sexual intercourse, and Adam tried forcing himself on her, she flew off in a rage, went into the desert using the power of the Tetragrammaton, the unpronounceable name of God. So Yahweh, the God, sent 3 of his angels after her and tried to entice her back. And there's various ways this story then develops. Essentially, there's lots of magical amulets and things like this that's developed out of this story for the protection of children, but there's also stories where Lilith becomes a baby eater or baby killer, all such things. So this story, however, dates to the 8th or 10th century CE, so it's not as old as the older myths of Lilith that I previously mentioned, but it's pretty kind of strong, and it's obviously kind of attached itself to the human psyche quite a bit. So it is retold and is a very popular depiction and understanding of Lilith today. Doesn't necessarily make it completely correct, but it's definitely part of her history. There are many other kind of connections, again, with Lilith as quite a demonic and strong entity, killing babies, kind of various things that to protect from her. There's stories where she can shift gender. So there's a lot of different myths associated with her. Then most specifically, obviously, this question I'm trying to address in this clip is the connection between Lilith and the Shekinah, because On the surface, they have very little in common. One being, wisdom and beauty and all things good, and the other exactly the opposite. Now, if we look into the 13th century Kabbalistic text by Rabbi Isaac called the Treatise of the Lesser Emanation, we find some of the more challenging aspects of Kabbalistic philosophy and theology explored in it. And in this particular text, we find that Lilith is discussed at length. And in fact, Rabbi Isaac discusses two Liliths, which he refers to as the lesser and the greater Lilith. This is something that kind of mirrors the descriptions of the Shekinah in Kabbalistic texts, where there's a heavenly and an earthly Shekinah. And this kind of mirroring is also further shown in the fact that Lilith in this particular text is married to Samael, who is the demon king, whereas the Shekinah is married to Yahweh. Lilith is also described as a matron within this text, which again recalls the position of the Shekinah as the matronette or the bride of the Shabbat. So again, I'll read the little quote to you from the Treatise of the Lesser Emanation, which says, both Samael and Lilith, called Eve the matron, also known as the northern one, are emanated from beneath the throne of glory. Now, the lesser Lilith was married to Ashmodeus, the demon prince. Samael and Lilith may both be seen as mirroring Adam and Eve as well as Yahweh and the Shekinah. Now, in the Zohar, which is an incredibly important text, the writers are explicit about there being a connection between Lilith and the Shekinah, saying that Lilith is the result of the uncovered Shekinah created by the sins of the biblical Jews. Now, this is an overlooked but a hugely important passage in the context of kind of trying to understand the connection between Lilith and the Shekinah. So again, I'll just read it to you. It's from Zohar 1:27b. For the sin of unchastity, Israel has been sent into captivity, and the Shekinah also, and this is the uncovering of the Shekinah. This unchastity is Lilith. So, even if this idea is considered original to the Zohar rather than being a continuation of older beliefs, then it places us in the 13th century CE, because the Zohar was first published in 1290 CE. From these later associations, it's clear that there is a link between Lilith and the Shekinah. However, this is very tangential and it's allegorical because it's all done through symbolism, and it should not be in any way seen as an equation, saying Lilith and the Shekinah is the same, or have something very close in common, because that just simply is not supported by the evidence. So I hope that answers the question about the connection between Lilith and the Shekinah, for those of you that are still curious about it. And as I said, we discussed that a lot more in our book, The Cosmic Shekinah. So get yourself a copy and read it, and then tell me all about what you think about it. I look forward to getting lots of feedback from all of you, good, bad, and indifferent. It's all very welcome. And I shall see you soon on some more of these clips on Ustream and on YouTube. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.